Cheerio. Kyungye. Hi everybody, welcome to this week's Taekwondo Thursday. It is getting really dark early in the evening now, so I think everybody can feel we're settling right into winter. Anyway, let's get straight on to this week's topic. So I was asked this week to explain about the term reverse in Taekwondo terminology. Now this is an interesting one because reverse can be used in two different contexts in relation to which arm we're using for a particular stance. In other words, is it obverse or reverse? And the other context is in terms of naming some of our hand or foot parts. So I'm going to cover obverse and reverse this week, and then I'll cover the hand parts and foot parts next week. So let's get started. The context of obverse or reverse. Well, they can be defined very easily. Obverse is a technique, a hand technique, that's done on the same side as the primary leg of your stance. Reverse is done with the opposite arm, so opposite the primary leg of your stance. So that's a fairly easy definition. But of course it opens up a can of worms. What's the primary leg of the stance? So now we're going to find that that's going to take up the lion's share of the video this week. Which is the primary leg of the stance? Well, it's dictated by three rules. Number one, the primary leg of your stance is the leg with the most weight. However, if the weight is 50-50, then it's the leg with the most bend. If the bend in each leg is equal, then it's the front leg. So that's the hierarchy of deciding which is the primary leg. First of all, most weight. Then leg with most bend, and then front leg. And we're going to look at three examples. Let's look at the walking stance. If we look at our walking stance, we know that the weight distribution is 50-50. But the front knee is bent, the back knee is straight, therefore rule 2 applies. The leg with more bend, which is the front leg, that's the primary leg, which means that my right leg is forward, a technique done on my right arm, let's say an inner forearm middle block, that's an obverse block because it's the same side as the primary leg. Now if I was to use my left arm in a right walking stance, then the left punch would be a reverse punch. So obverse block, same side as the primary leg, which is the front leg. Reverse punch, opposite the primary leg. Let's look at another stance. Let's look at L stance. L stance. Rule number one, it's the leg with more weight, right? So which leg has the more weight in L stance? Is it equal? It's not equal, is it? It's 70% in the back to 30% in the front. So we don't need to go beyond rule one. The leg with more bend is the primary leg. So the back leg is the primary leg in L stance. That means anything done over the front leg is a reverse technique. Anything done over the back is an obverse technique. So you're starting to see the pattern now, I hope. Let's look at another one. Fixed stance. Fixed stance, quite similar to L stance. Similar, but not the same. Fixed stance. What do we know about fixed stance? Well, the weight is 50-50 in this. Therefore, we have to go to rule 2. The leg with more bend. Well, they're more or less equally bent. So now it becomes the front leg. So if it's a right fixed stance, the right leg is forward. That means if it's something that's done with my right arm, then it's an obverse technique. If it's done with the left, it's reverse because it's opposite the primary leg. So once you know which leg is the primary leg in any stance, then you know whether a technique is obverse or reverse. Now, there's one tricky stance. Maybe there's more, but there's one comes to mind straight away. Sitting stance. If I'm doing a front punch, it doesn't have a primary leg. There is a case to be made for if you're stepping forward. Now, is that an obverse or reverse technique? Does it have a primary leg if it becomes a front leg because you're stepping? Generally, the sitting stance is regarded as not having a primary leg. So next week we will talk about hand and foot parts and how that context of reverse is covered. Cheerio, have a great week, everybody. Bye bye.